Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Anjali Gulati, consultant psychologist at the Gratian Super Specialty Hospital. In this webinar today, we're going to talk about mental health awareness, some common mental illnesses, what is poor mental health, what is good mental health, and how can we maintain a good, healthy mental life. So we'll start with what is the meaning of mental health. We are all aware of what physical health is, because physical health is something that we can see, something that we can, it's tangible. So if you get hurt, you're able to see the injury, you're able to show the doctor where the injury is, you can get it bandaged, you can see the healing process as well. But with mental illness, it is difficult. Neither of those things are possible. But one common thing that mental illness or mental health can show you is emotions. We can all feel when we're feeling sad, when we feel angry, or when some things don't work according to us. So mental health determines how we handle stress, how we maintain interpersonal relationships, and how we take decisions in life. According to WHO, mental health is a state of well-being in which the individual realizes their own abilities, how they cope with normal stresses in life, and how can they work productively and fruitfully, and how they make a contribution to their community in life. So now that we've understood what mental health means, it is important that we know the difference between what good mental health looks like and what poor mental health looks like. So I'll start with discussing what good mental health is. So when we have good mental health, we're able to have good control over our emotions. We're able to regulate our emotions with varying situations. So even if we happen to have a stressor in our life, if something happens that doesn't go our way, we know that we can handle it. We know that we can be more hopeful towards making the things better in life. And good mental health also means that we're able to enjoy moments in life, how they come. If happiness comes, sadness comes, we're able to take all in. We're able to maintain better social relationships. We know that we have relationship with friends, family, and we like maintaining those bonds. We're able to take challenges in life with resilience and hope for better. We feel more creative and maintain a good self-satisfaction as well. So this was about good mental health. Now we'll focus on what poor mental health looks like. So poor mental health is something that we have difficulty facing difficult situations in life. We're not able to face inconvenience. It becomes very difficult coping hardships in life. We feel easily triggered by emotions. Anything bad happens to us, we don't know. Our mind goes haywire. We don't know how to react. Our mind can feel numb during that. Our social life gets affected. It's difficult to even make one conversation with somebody. We don't feel motivated to talk to people. We feel demotivated to go and make physical appearances. We start feeling less hopeful in life, and we find less and less meaning in doing things in life. And because of this, our physical health also gets affected. We have sleep problems and avoids social interactions. So that is what poor mental health can look like. Now there can be many causes, many different factors what can contribute to poor mental health. Some of the common causes for poor mental health conditions can be financial issues, like conditions where there is inflation or recession, like the demonetization. It really tripped people because this was something that people were not expecting to happen with them. So people used to feel anxious, people felt edgy all the time. Then there are physical and medical health conditions. Medical health conditions, so if you're going for a general checkup in life, general medical checkup, and then you realize there is something that you were not expecting gets diagnosed with you or your family member, that gets very difficult to process. The comprehension part gets really difficult. We're not able to accept the reality as it is. Then there are interpersonal problems with our friends, problems with our family, some argument, some disagreement. So we're not able to handle that situation well. Then there is family problems in the way that there is some discord, there is some broken ties in the family that you're not able to get over with. That keeps you edgy, that keeps you anxious all the time, that what should I do, should I continue, should I not? All of those things. Then there are some situations like when you lose a loved one in your life, which is untimely death in the family or any place. And the most important and most prevalent right now is the COVID-19 situation. So we don't know, we were not expected that something like that would take over the whole world like this. A lot of people feel depressed, a lot of people feel sad, a lot of people feel like they don't have much to look forward to. They've lost their jobs, they've lost people to COVID-19 and all of those things. So poor mental health, if persists over time, it can lead to mental health disorders. So there is a difference between challenges and issues related to mental health, and then there are mental health disorders. Those disorders need professional help, professional treatment, medication. You know. So I will briefly discuss a few mental health disorders that people have been facing, people have been experiencing over the years. So I'll start with the depression. So as we understand, depression is one of the major leading causes of disability in the world. Then there are anxiety disorders. Anxiety is one of the most commonly diagnosed problems, mostly in young generation, but also prevalent in older generation as well. Then there are personality disorders. Almost 10% of the world's population faces or experiences personality disorders. Then there is psychotic disorders. Psychotic disorders can be disorders which includes hallucinations, delusions, and all of those things in life. Then there are fears and phobias that people experience on daily, in life. And then, last but not the least, the post-traumatic disorder. So post-traumatic stress disorders is a disorder that people face, having come across a natural calamity, having come across an untimely death in the family. So that trauma can really affect one person. If that trauma, persists, if you're not able to handle things in general because of that, it can lead to post-traumatic stress disorder. One thing that I would want to make sure and want you people to note is that all of those disorders that I've mentioned in the previous conversation cause significant distress and significant problems in your daily routine. So if the person is feeling depressed, it has to necessarily affect their normal routine. They feel demotivated to even do simplest of tasks in daily life. They're not able to make conversation, their body feels fatigued, they feel restless all the time, they feel irritable, they have suicidal tendencies as well. So all of those things have to cause significant distress in life to be able to diagnose it as a disorder. And only a trained professional like a psychologist or a psychiatrist can make that diagnosis and help you cope with it better and give you the best treatment they can. So now I will share a few identifiers with you so that anybody you think around you or yourself, if you think you're facing some mental health issue which can or cannot be a disorder, it's important that we know what it is. It's important that we are able to identify at least what can become a potential problem. Please note that this is only for the awareness purposes. We cannot make a diagnosis based on identifiers. And of course, the identifiers that we're going to discuss is different in children and in adults. So I'll start with how mental health issues can be manifested in children. So if you have a child, or if you live in a place where there are a lot of children, and if you see certain changes in their behaviors which are untimely, we can think that yes, there can be a potential mental health problem that they are facing. So I'll start with simple identifiers. One, if you see that the child suddenly has started showing sadness, suddenly has started showing withdrawal symptoms. They're not they used to enjoy certain things in life, but now they're not. Their mood is shifting off and on, and they exhibit out of control behaviors like anger issues, breaking stuff, having an argument after every short while, and they also show eating problems. So either they're eating a little too much, or they've stopped eating things that they used to like eating before. Those can be some things. And then they talk about worrying and fears, like they would not want to go to a particular washroom, particular area, meeting a particular person because they're afraid of meeting them. And then there is emotional bluntness. Emotional bluntness can be that the child usually used to talk a lot, but now they're being very monosyllabic. Like they would answer you yes or no, and then they would leave the situation. They would not be able to make the communication that they did before now. Then you get social complaints from school or friends and family that your child or somebody's child, they're misbehaving. The complaints about misconduct, not completing their homework, not interacting with children as they did before, and they socially distance themselves. So it's one of the most common things that we notice in children because they're playful and they want to talk to you all the time, and suddenly you notice that they're not in the arena anymore. They don't want to gel, they don't want to sit and talk to you. They rather would want to sit in their room, focus on their own work, So those can be a few identifiers that we can think, can have a mental health problem underlying. So, and in adults, now we'll discuss how mental health, mental illness can manifest in adults. We can have some pointers to that. So in adults, we can start noticing that one person starts to lose interest in things generally. So they would go on walks with you. Now they're suddenly changing plans all the time. They would make some or the other excuse to not go out with you, or breaking their routine from daily life. Then they incur sleep problems. Either they're sleeping a little too much, or they've lost their sleep, or they're up all night thinking, or not talking to anybody, sitting in dim lights. All of those things can be potential markers for mental health condition. And then you see that the person becomes irritable. They are edgy all the time. You make an argument with them and then they just blurt out things. They're not able to sustain a communication or a conversation with you. Then they also show, as children, socially withdrawn behaviors, that they would rather escape going to social meetings or social interactions. And one can also significantly notice, if you're living with somebody, the problems with weight gain and weight loss. So it is one of the most important marker in diagnosing depression also, that the patient could suddenly start losing weight, suddenly stop eating, or they would rather binge eat a lot. That could be like a potential indicator to a mental health condition as well. And they complain of being fatigued all the time. They lack motivation in life. They do not want to talk to people. Even if the phone is ringing, they would rather choose not to talk to somebody. And they delay work. So the procrastination starts suddenly, or gradually you see that the person is showing absenteeism at work or at social meetings or meeting their friends, etc. So these signs and symptoms can indicate that a person experiencing some sort of mental health challenges which require professional attention and care. Because we need to understand that mental health is equally important as your physical health. Our mind and body interact with each other more than we know. So, for example, if you're feeling low and sad, if you've heard something bad happen to you, yourself, or somebody around, near you, you would feel that your physical body also starts to get a little jittery. You would feel fatigued. You would feel less motivated to get out of bed. And that laziness and that boredom can make your physical health feel more lazy. You would feel fatigued all the time. And just imagine it's the other way around. If you get physically hurt, let's say somebody gets into an accident, so they would start thinking of scenarios that they would not be able to go to work tomorrow. They would miss out on social gatherings. They would have to catch up on work after they get free from this. So those feelings can make you feel sad. The feelings can temporarily make you feel depressed also. So those are the conditions, those are the signs and identifiers that one can notice in oneself and people around you, to let them know that things are difficult, and then they can seek help. And now I'll discuss a few things that we can do to maintain a healthy mental state. There are certain things that we can do if you're in a good state right now. How do we maintain that? How do we continue being in that state that can help us? So the first thing that I want to discuss is having a physical activity routine. So physical activity routine generally is good for mental health as well as physical health. It doesn't have to be going to gym, going to exercise every day. No, it can be going for a small walk, or just taking a step out and going for a small run for 5 to 7 minutes, just to keep your body in action. You can do yoga, you can go for dance classes, or easily you can just switch on, tune in some songs and just dance your way freely. Anything that can keep your body a little more regulated, can increase your heartbeat, can be good for you. And then there is socialization. Socialization is an recognized concept. It does not mean that you have to be on social media all the time and you watch videos and reels all the time. Socialization means interacting with somebody, having somebody you can talk to, somebody you can call every day, share your routine with, ask them how their day was, anything. Share things with your family, how are they doing, checking up on somebody, telling them how you are doing. So that really helps you regulate your emotions. That helps you be in the moment. And the third thing that I want to discuss is following a gratitude schedule. So gratitude is obviously a wonderful concept. But how I mean gratitude, following a daily routine of gratitude, is to be grateful for things that we have in life. A lot of times it's easy for us to focus on things that we want, things that we are driven towards. More money, better house, better vehicle, better job, better relationships. But we forget that we are in this moment. What all things do we already have? And reminding ourselves of those things which we are already grateful for can really enhance your well-being, can really make you more hopeful in life. Even if you want to have something in life, if you have that gratitude in you, you can feel more driven. You can feel driven with meaning to want to do. So one thing that I discuss with my clients and patients is that before you go to bed every night, just write down three things that you're grateful for in the day. Like any of those three things. It could be like, you checked up on one of your friends and they were not doing so well, but after talking to you, they felt nice. So you feel grateful that you were able to make somebody happy that way, or you got a gift from somebody. So you're grateful for a friend who would do that for you. Anything, those can be littlest of things to major things in life. And then maintaining good eating habits. So that obviously is something that is beneficial for your physical as well as your mental health. Having a good eating schedule will keep your body fit, and just as I discussed in a few minutes before, was that your good body can also impact having a good mental health state also. So eating habits is one thing that one should consider keeping. And then there is recreation. So a lot of us are working. Now that the pandemic is again on its rise, a lot of people are on the edge again. So we are fearful as to how situations are going to be, what is going to happen, are the cases going to increase, are we going to get vaccinated or not, all of those concerns. And in between all of that, we lose out on what we have to do for ourselves to release that stress, to release that energy, that pent up emotions, that pent up anxiety in us. So for that, have 2 to 3 things in your head, that you can do for recreational purposes. It could be like going for a run. It could be meeting a friend in the park in the evening. Or it could be listening to your favorite music. Or it could be like watching a movie over the weekend with your friends. Or anything that can make you a little happy and it is different from your daily routine. So breaking that routine with something that you like is important to break the cycle of constant anxiety, constant stress that we see around, constant worrying that we see around in people and generally as well. So, and I want to emphasize on the fact that it's okay to feel stressed out, it's okay to feel anxious, it's okay to have depressing times. But what's more important is that you seek help, is that you talk to people around you who can help you, is that you think about yourself, think about what you can do to relieve yourself. Professional help is always available. You can talk to professionals, you can have a counseling session, you can go for therapy. Therapy is not necessarily for mental health disorders. You can also seek therapy and also seek counseling for mental health challenges every day that you experience in life. So I wish well for you and your well-being, and good afternoon again.